Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 67 of Paul Heyman's TNA, and we begin tonight's show with the in-ring debut of Kevin Steen, who, after walking out on the New Age last week, it has been confirmed that he was offered and signed a contract with TNA this week. He defeats Charlie Haas, who he took down during last week's main event in 11 minutes and 49, a competitive, even match, but a poke to the eye followed by a package piledriver secures the victory for Kevin Steen in his in-ring debut. A 51 is okay for a debut, but we are going to need to see some development from him. Once the bell rings for win the match, Samoa Joe is straight down to the ring, looking to get his hands on Kevin Steen. When Samoa Joe enters the ring, Kevin Steen rolls out and gets away. Joe then takes a microphone and rather than chasing Steen, he says that now Kevin is signed to a TNA contract, he can't keep playing the games that he's been playing, because now Samoa Joe can officially challenge Kevin Steen and Paul Heyman can make the match. Joe is willing to wait to get his hands on Kevin Steen, but only until against all odds, so a potential pay-per-view match being proposed there. Joe looking good and improvising well, gaining heat to the storyline, and we see Kevin Steen's first rivalry as a member of the TNA roster is against Samoa Joe. We then head to the back where Jeremy Borash is asking Jimmy Jacobs about Kevin Steen, his refusal to follow orders from the New Age leader last week, and then this week it being confirmed that he has signed a TNA contract. It seems like everything we thought about Kevin Steen isn't the case and he will not be joining that group. Jimmy Jacobs says that he and Kevin go way back and he respects him. That's why the offer to join the New Age was on the table. The kid had something to offer to their group, but Steen is also old enough and big enough to make his own mistakes. Jacobs' mistake was looking outside of the project to deal with one of their problems. That's not a mistake he's going to make again. Tonight, it's Tyler, Chris and Claudio dealing with business for themselves, and they're going to get the job done against Roderick Strong and Generation Me. So a poor segment, but just promoting that main event for tonight. Prior to the second match of the show, Alyssa Flash and Mischief make their entrance, joined by Sara Del Rey. She takes a microphone and complains that there are simply no challengers left for her in the Knockouts division and no challengers for her championship. As Sara Del Rey then begins to list off the names she has beaten since joining the company, Hamada makes her way down to the ring. SDR rolls her eyes. This is a woman that she's already beaten, and she tells Hamada as much, reminding her of what happened at Final Resolution. However, Hamada says, "Not me," before telling SDR to bring Flash and Mischief next week for a 3-on-3. Hamada then leaves up the ramp. The commentator is wondering who will join her to face the New Age on next week's Impact. Hamada seemingly hinting that there is a new challenger coming for Sara Del Rey's championship. The New Age then defeat Lana Kinnear and Santana Garrett in a very straightforward squash match. It gets a poor rating, but that's to be expected, and it's just about putting over Mischief and Alyssa Flash, who put in two decent performances. They stand tall, following a dominant victory, and as they do so, the commentators confirm that next week on Impact, it will be Sara Del Rey, Alyssa Flash and Mischief versus Hamada, Taylor Wilde, and a mystery tag team partner. We then get an interview with Roderick Strong, conducted by Christy Hemme. They promote the main event match of Roderick Strong and Generation Me versus the New Age. Strong says that he made that challenge last week knowing what a huge task laid ahead of all three of these guys, but that's exactly why he did it. The New Age are undefeated as a trio, but so are they. That's why Roddy knew that Nick and Matt would be up for this challenge, because they're aware, like everybody else, of the threat posed to TNA by the New Age. As Strong continues to speak, the interview is interrupted by Kevin Steen, who made his debut earlier. Steen tells Strong that he hasn't forgotten what happened at Genesis, and even if he isn't a member of the New Age, there was still something between the two of them. Steen adds that Strong had better watch his back, so Kevin Steen making clear, or more like hinting at the idea that he could be interested in the X Division Championship in the future, but having had only one match in the company so far, it's probably fair to say that's a little bit premature. He also has Samoa Joe to think about, but it's just planting a seed there that there could be something in the X Division for Steen in the future. We then get a video package which recaps Paul Heyman's huge announcement from TNA Evolve, where he confirmed the return of Ring of Honor at the end of this month. The 9th anniversary show will celebrate the 9-year history of that promotion, as well as quotes from Paul Heyman. The package also features footage of both Bryan Danielson and Christopher Daniels from their days in Ring of Honor. Of course, TNA now owns that tape library. They will face off just like they did on the first ever Ring of Honor event at the 9th anniversary show. So a bit of a reunion, as well as being the celebration of 9 years since the promotion started. And we go into the third match of the evening, an X Division Championship, not officially a number one contenders match, but it's 3 guys and the returning Douglas Williams, who are all interested in that title. And it is actually Doug Williams who steals the victory. Looks like Sonjay Dutt may have it sewn up and in the bag, but Douglas Williams comes in, takes Sonjay Dutt out of the equation, hits Okada with a Chaos Theory suplex, and given he's not been on screen for a couple of months, hopefully that is the reset that Douglas Williams needs and we can start to establish him more, because I was a big fan of his at the time, and I think, as we say, with the X Division champion being Roderick Strong, I think Strong and Williams, while not being your typical X Division championship match, could be a really good title bout. Douglas Williams then stands tall, celebrating a successful return to Impact in the ring, overcoming 3 of the top challengers in the division. Douglas Williams may well have springboarded himself towards the top of contention within the X Division with just 1 match. Despite him pinning one of his clients, Larry Sweeney is impressed by Williams' performance and enters the ring, handing him his card. Douglas gives little away, but does keep a hold of the card, perhaps hinting that there is some interest from him. The commentators speak about Larry Sweeney's rumoured recruitment drive following the departure from Sweet and Sour of Austin Creed, and from what we've seen, well, we may have just confirmed those reports, Sweeney making clear his intention to add to the ranks. We then end the hour with Mr. Anderson storming into the office of Paul Heyman, clearly tired of waiting for an answer. Anderson tells Heyman that he is going to go out to the ring next, and he's calling out Kurt Angle. Anderson says that it's simple, either Paul Heyman can give him the shot against all odds, and they can all make sure that all their resources are spent on coming together against the New Age, or they can continue to pull in opposite directions and be torn apart by Jimmy Jacobs' group. Paul Heyman doesn't really have much to say, but Mr. Anderson isn't there for permission or for a response. He's going to the ring and he'll be there when we return from the break. And as promised, we come back to Mr. Anderson coming to the ring and calling out Kurt Angle, and he just wants to know whether Kurt wants to do things the easy way or the hard way. If they make the match for Against All Odds right now, they can focus on the New Age. If not, they play right into their hands and give that group even more power. Instead of Kurt Angle, AJ Styles comes out and tells Anderson that he finds all this laughable. Anderson is trying to manipulate Paul Heyman into giving him what he wants, but even Paul isn't that dumb. You're either part of the fight back or not, but you don't get to use it to leverage your title shot. Anderson states that AJ Styles' integrity is going to get him nowhere because TNA needs Anderson more than Anderson needs TNA right now. With things heating up, Kurt Angle comes out and says that Anderson can't be trusted, and he proved that a few weeks back. The arguments continue, all 3 men begin to bicker until Paul Heyman comes out and books AJ Styles versus Mr. Anderson for TNA Evolved. He says that there is only one real solution for this. We need a challenger for the pay-per-view, and the winner of that match will face Kurt Angle. Now he needs both of them on board to continue this fight back against the New Age. While Paul Heyman is poor when improvising, everybody else does well, and it's a really good segment, and we needed that after what wasn't a fantastic first hour of the show. We then get Bryan Danielson versus Frankie Kazarian, which unfortunately, despite getting 8 minutes of a good match, we are cut short when Bryan has a cattle mutilation on Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels decides to run in. We can safely assume Kazarian would have quit because nobody else has got out of that move so far, but we don't find out because Christopher Daniels makes that decision. This isn't the first time Christopher Daniels has attacked Bryan Danielson after a match with Frankie Kazarian, but this time Beer Money are also involved in the attack, of course. Brian Kendrick and Paul London run down to help their friend, but are again dispatched of pretty easily by the 4-strong group. Christopher Daniels continues to direct traffic, looking to send a message before his match with Bryan at the 9th anniversary ROH show. Running down from the back, Desmond Wolfe comes down the ramp and puts himself between the 3 men on the ground and the Forefathers, fired up and ready to fight. Wolf gestures towards himself and tells the forefathers to bring it on. He's ready to take whatever they have. In his attempt to protect Bryan Danielson and the Hooligans, Desmond Wolf is once again destroyed in the middle of the ring. We're no closer to any answers as to why we're doing this, but we see once again the forefathers stood tall, while those 4 other guys are looking in a very bad way. We move then into an episode of the Beautiful People show as Angelina Love and Velvet Sky welcome Tara as their guest. They quickly get into talking about her time away and her recent return to the company. They particularly look to pry into how she felt watching Mickie James teaming with somebody else just a couple of weeks into her hiatus. She didn't wait around to find a replacement, and also she went for another title. Knowing that Tara's return was around the corner, does she feel like Mickie is trying to leave her behind? This is what the Beautiful People always seem to do on this show, look to come between people. While this doesn't work on Tara and she remains diplomatic, Love and Sky continue to suggest that Mickie thinks she's carrying Tara, that she's better than her, and having heard enough, Mickie James comes out. She comes to defend herself, but the Beautiful People once again try and turn this against her, saying that even when they invite Tara on as their special guest to the Beautiful People show, Mickie has to come out and steal the spotlight. You could say they've got a point really, this wasn't Mickie's time to speak. Love says that Mickie believes what all the doubters have been saying. She thinks that Tara is past her prime and is on a sharp decline. Mickie denies this and is furious with Angelina Love. Tara doesn't like what she's hearing and storms off. She's sick of this already. Mickie follows with Velvet Sky feigning ignorance. They were only asking questions, what they'd done wrong, but clearly the Beautiful People successfully getting under the skin of Tara. The 5th match of the night is a disappointing Knockouts tag team match where April Hunter and Jazz defeat Brooke Tessmacher and ODB in 4 minutes and 22 when April pins Brooke Tessmacher with a German suplex. It does get a 21 and it's because all 4 women are considered unimportant. Like a couple of weeks ago, Jazz was in the well-known category, so I would have got away with this, but obviously she slipped back down without me noticing. Jazz and ODB both putting in decent performances, to be fair. This storyline really isn't going anywhere, and I'm probably going to have to try and figure something out because it's just not working, simply put. The victory isn't enough for April Hunter and Jazz as Jazz takes a microphone, runs down the team they've just beat. She's particularly harsh towards ODB, saying that one of her proteges couldn't make the cut, referring to the fact that Lacey Von Erich has this week left the company, and the one in the ring right now is just as bad. If ODB can't train these girls and she hasn't been doing anything on her own for the last year, then why is she still here? It's clear that it isn't to win matches, because ODB is a loser who has spent the last 12 months losing. Jazz is saying that it's time to call it quits, really trying to get very personal and very degrading towards ODB. She tells her to go back where she came from, probably some insults towards the fact that she is from a trailer park, that kind of thing. April Hunter then disrespectfully throws ODB out of the ring, stands tall with Jazz. We then get some promotion for this week's TNA Evolve with AJ Styles and Mr. Anderson set to be our main event. This leads into a promo from James Mitchell, who tells us that Abyss will be in action this Saturday. He says that Eric Young has been lined up as the sacrificial lamb to the slaughter, but really it could have been anybody. Just like Chris Sabin 2 weeks ago, the monster is going to destroy Eric Young. So a very basic 2-minute promo, James Mitchell unscripted, say what you want to promote the fact that Abyss is in action this Saturday, and we go then into that main event. The New Age defeating Team USA in 11 minutes and 32 when Tyler Black pins Roderick Strong with the Blackout Stomp, but that doesn't really tell the full story of the match. Roderick Strong, as the captain of Team USA as he was in the World X Cup, he's looking to lead and direct his team, and throughout the match we see that Nick and Matt aren't really that happy with this. This comes to a head when Roderick Strong looks for the hot tag when he's struggling against the numbers of the New Age, and Matt Jackson drops from the apron. Nick Jackson doesn't look like he was expecting this, but when Strong puts his hand out to Nick, he does the same. The two men dropping off the apron, leaving Roderick Strong on his own to face the 3 men. It's essentially a 3-on-1 handicap, complete domination from the New Age, and with Generation Me walking out on their supposed friend, we do turn them heel. We've been building this up for quite a long time, but tried to keep it where nobody would see those notes, so hopefully this comes as a surprise. Those two walking out, we're not sure why. Of course we'll look for answers in the future, but it is another setback for the fight back as Roderick Strong is left all alone, the X Division champion pinned by Tyler Black, and following the shocking betrayal that has handed them the victory, the New Age stand tall in the ring to end the show. Jimmy Jacobs front and centre as yet another Impact ends with this group standing tall. More understated than in previous weeks, their presence at the end of the show further reiterates the dominance of the group, while their list of enemies may be growing, although it's lost 2 members tonight with Generation Me seemingly not willing to fight back against them, so does their list of victories. Roderick Strong, the latest to fall under the boot of Tyler Black's Blackout Stomp. Myro and Taz sign off on the show, concerned about the familiar feeling of the New Age's image being the last we see on Impact, and that is where it becomes very, very worrying for TNA. Whatever anybody thinks about this group's objective, nobody can deny the effectiveness of this project, and particularly the direction of Jimmy Jacobs. I did notice that it was only a 60 rated main event. Some good performances, definitely all 3 members of the New Age delivering. That's not really good enough. We did have that 87 rated segment, so fingers crossed. It's certainly not one of the better Impacts we've done, probably the worst one we've done for quite some time. I might even check that. Definitely the worst of 2011 so far, but that is the end of Impact with a shocking twist. Team USA, who just last month won the World X Cup, torn apart as Generation Me, seemingly not happy with the leadership of Roderick Strong, walking out on him during that main event. Chris Hero criticising Paul London, while Claudio Castagnoli giving some credit to Bryan Danielson, so maybe some fractions there backstage with some of the close friendships between those guys. The ratings are really not even worth talking about. They're getting worse and worse and worse. Thankfully, TNA Evolve continues to be much better in terms of those ratings, and we're going to the 6th episode now from the Hammerstein Ballroom once again, and the show begins with Abyss defeating Eric Young. It's a brawl-based match, but a fairly straightforward win for Abyss. After the match, the Motor City Machine Guns come out, Shelley making his way to the ring while Chris Sabin hangs back and he challenges Abyss to a match. He injured him on the last show of 2010, and he wants to face Abyss one-on-one to get some revenge. Paul Heyman then speaks during a video package about Ring of Honor, footage from the company's history, particularly focusing on Bryan Danielson and Christopher Daniels and their clashes on the early Ring of Honor shows, and Heyman's just putting over the promotion and further promoting the 9th anniversary show. ODB defeated Jazz, fired up from the events of Impact, but is jumped from behind by April Hunter, so a little bit of a good moment for ODB, who reached rock bottom just this past Thursday, but quickly she is taken back down to earth. We then get a wrestler profile on Colt Cabana and El Generico, who discussed their Impact debuts 10 nights ago on Spike. They talk about their ambitions in TNA, particularly that one day they'd like to be the World Tag Team Champions. Back-to-back pre-recorded interviews are then shown with AJ Styles and Mr. Anderson, both talking about their desire to become the #1 contender, but in the main event, AJ Styles goes to a double DQ with Mr. Anderson when Tyler Black, Chris Hero and Claudio Castagnoli come in and spoil the match completely. The referee has no choice but to throw it out. They stand tall in the ring to end the show once again, whether it's Impact, whether it's Evolve, whether it's pay-per-view or maybe even Ring of Honor. They are in control of what happens in this company and nobody is going to stop them. Clearly AJ Styles and Mr. Anderson not #1 contenders, as neither of them picked up the victory. Based on their actions, it seems like the New Age are unhappy with the fact that that match was even made, considering the controversy that surrounded Tyler Black versus Kurt Angle at Genesis. Of course, Mr. Anderson himself has complaints to make. A 73 is a decent show, a little bit better than Impact, but not the strongest week in TNA, you have to say. With that said, I think we've got some good storyline development, and that's what's more important than the in-game ratings in my opinion. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll be back next week with another show.